lots of cheese. So to start things off, I need to make the bread dough. And this is a brioche dough. So it's buttery and rich, and it matches with the cheese layer that's spiraled in between. So to start things off, I'll measure 3 1/4 cups of flour. And just like the cacciapuri, I'm using all-purpose flour. I must be using lots of flour today. I'm almost at the bottom of my bin. I add 2 tablespoons of sugar. The sugar is really there not for the sweetness, but to activate the yeast and get it rising. And speaking of which, I'll add my 2 1/4 teaspoons and a teaspoon of salt. For the liquids, I'll start with 1/3 cup of milk, which I'll warm up to that necessary temperature between 105 and 115 by adding 1/3 cup of hot water to it. And check that I have the right temperature. Yeah, it's a little bit warmer than me, so that's just right. I'll pour that in, and then crack my 2 eggs in. And the eggs are at room temperature. And once I start mixing the wet ingredients with the dry, then I'll add the butter. A cup of unsalted butter. It too has been softened to room temperature, and this is what makes just such a deliciously rich bread dough. There we go. And I'll scrape this into a bowl. A buttery style of brioche dough like this needs to sit out at room temperature for an hour, but then you actually have to chill it overnight. So this is a make-ahead recipe. And it's actually why I came up with the recipe. I wanted something new and creative and savory to serve for a Sunday brunch. So I prepared everything the day before, and this dough fit the bill. So I'm going to set it aside for an hour, and while this rests, I can work on my cheese sauce. Yes, you heard that correctly. I'm making a cheese sauce that makes the filling that I spiral up inside that beautiful brioche dough. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure 1 1/4 cups of milk into a pot. So to the cold milk, I add 1 1/2 tablespoons of cornstarch. I also want to build in a little flavor at the same time. So let's put in the garlic. It's garlic with bread and cheese. Meant to be. And now also for little Dijon mustard. Just grab a spoonful here. This sharp mustard just adds a nice little kick. I'm adding just a loose teaspoon. And now I can bring this mixture up to a full simmer on medium to medium-high heat. You do want to whisk this constantly. Keep it moving so it doesn't stick at the bottom. Now that it's thickened up, I can add the cheese, and I know it will melt in smoothly. So I'm going to start first. I'm going to add 1.5 cups of Asiago cheese. So I add half of it in. You don't add it all at once. Let it melt in fully, and then add the remainder. Oh my goodness, that smells so good. And you thought I was all about the sweets. All right, now the Asiago is melted in there. I can add 1 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. And I'll stir that in. And now, for a little bit of color, the last addition, 1/4 cup of chopped Italian parsley. I'll take this off the heat. Cheesy goodness. Let this cool completely to room temperature, and then chill it. So by the time my brioche dough is ready, this will be chilled, and the two are assembled into these beautiful garlic Parmesan twists. All right, it is time to get rolling. I have my chilled brioche dough, my chilled cheese sauce, and it's time to assemble these garlic Parmesan twists. I'm going to lightly flour my work surface, and I've already greased a 9x13 pan. So really, this part is just like making a sweet sticky bun, except it's all savory. And what I want to do is I'm going to roughly shape it into a rectangle now. I'm aiming for a rectangle that's about 12 by 16. Okay, now for the cheese sauce, I'll spread this on the entire surface of the dough. And now I start from a long end and roll it all the way up. Just like so. Okay, now it's ready to slice. For precision, I'm just going to trim off my ends, and then I divide this into 12 equal pieces. And then I arrange them in my pan, 3 by 4. Because the dough is cold, you have to let it come up to room temperature. So I give it a good hour to proof. I have some already set for the oven. And you can see how they've expanded a little bit. And now I've preheated my oven to 375, and these take 40 minutes. And oh my gosh, that is 40 minutes of heaven. You smell the butter from the brioche, you smell the cheeses from the cheese sauce, and it's all bubbly and golden and beautiful. Oh, smell that, it's incredible. Oh, all that melting cheese, it's glorious.